Polish national Daniel Sobol from the city of Przemysl died in an Israeli airstrike in Gaza, along with citizens of Australia and the United Kingdom. 7 people working for celebrity chef Jose Andreas' World Central Kitchen were killed in an Israeli airstrike in central Gaza on Monday. The workers, who also included Palestinians and a dual citizen of the United States and Canada, were travelling in 2 armoured cars emblazoned with the WCK logo and another vehicle, WCK said in a statement. Despite coordinating movements with the Israeli Defense Force, the convoy was hit as it was leaving its Deir al-Balah warehouse after unloading more than 100 tons of humanitarian food aid brought to Gaza by sea, WCK said. According to Israelis military, this was the tragic incident, and the army is investigating the circumstances. These 2 vehicles that distribute food to the displaced people from Gaza. We suddenly saw the Israelis targeted the foreigners inside the cars. This is what happened. How did this happen, and where were you? I'm living here in the tents next to them, and the strike happened. There is a burnt vehicle there, and this is the second one. And both are armoured cars, so it is obvious that they belong to foreigners. We suddenly saw the strike on them, and we ran to evacuate them. What can we say? May God bless them, whoever they are. We are Muslim, and we know God. May God bless them.
المطبخ العالمي هذا بصراحة يعني احنا مستفيدين منه.
The World Central Kitchen, in all honesty, is something we benefit from. When this help is gone, it's like they want to starve us. So, we should starve? They're going to kill us with starvation? I use a crutch for lack of food because there is no nourishment. If they want to bomb, if this World Central Kitchen stops functioning, we will be in hospital every day. I'll be one of the people who ends up in hospital. What they are doing to us is a sin. What fault do we have? What fault do the children have for them to go hungry? We benefit from that kitchen. They bring us food to the tents. We have the children done. So I'll do this paragraph again. What are they doing to us? And a third time. What they are doing to us is a sin. What fault do we have? What fault do the children have for them to go hungry? We benefit from that kitchen. They bring us food to the tents. What have the children done for them to starve them? What has the kitchen done for them to bomb it? We came here because they said it was safe. Then they kept playing with us. One day they strike the kitchen. One day they say they want to send us back. Then they tell us to flee. What can we do? The Arab countries who are silent about what's happening are to blame. We are aware of reports of the World Central Kitchen team have been killed in an IDF attack while working to support our humanitarian food delivery efforts in Gaza. This is a tragedy. Humanitarian aid workers and civilians should never be a target. Never. Poland's Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski asked the Israeli ambassador in Warsaw for an explanation. Speaking at a press conference, Sikorski expressed condolences to the volunteer's family and said he had had a phone conversation scheduled with his Israeli counterpart. This is a tragedy. We still do not understand how this could have happened. I would like to express my sincere condolences to the family of our brave volunteer. I have already done it on social media. The ministry has also issued a statement. I spoke in person to the ambassador of Israel, who assured me that this case will be urgently explained and that Poland will receive a full range of information. In a moment, literally in 15 minutes, as soon as I finish talking to you, I will be talking to the Foreign Minister of Israel. Videos released in March of this year and in November last year by the World Centre Kitchen showed Polish aid worker Damian Sobol at the organisation's facilities. As the NGO confirmed, Sobol was one of the volunteers killed in an airstrike in Gaza. Sobol is seen inspecting a water treatment system on the kitchen roof and walking through a storage room describing various aid the WCK was planning to send to the enclave. The president of the city of Przemysl in southeastern Poland identified one of the volunteers as Damian Sobol. Photos uploaded to social media show a Polish passport with the name Damian Sobol alongside an Australian passport for another WCK volunteer, Lazwami Zomi Frankom. Frankom's death was confirmed by Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese.
Hello everyone, Damian checking in from Cairo. Here behind me already loading trucks to Gaza Kitchen with equipment. They already loaded tables, shelves, water system, trash bins, all kitchen equipment, wonderful pots ready to cook, 20,000 meals, water tanks, and everything what is needed to create a kitchen and feed people when needed. Thank you for all donations.
At 9:37 p.m, our beloved Holy Father returned to his Father's house. The Holy Father sat on the throne of St. Peter for 26 years. His message was the word spoken at the beginning of the mission. Do not be afraid. Open the door to Christ. Open the door to his saving power.
Wszyscy pragną świata bardziej ludzkiego.
Everyone longs for a more humane world where everyone can find a place that suits their vocation.
Znaleźć miejsce odpowiadające jego powołaniu.
St. John Paul II was the first pilgrim pope. He made 104 trips, during which he visited 129 countries on all inhabited continents.
To był papież, który nie tylko niósł nadzieję Polakom, nie tylko...
He was a pope who not only brought hope to Poles, not only gave us faith that things could be better, he was one of the co-authors of the fall of communism, but he also said very important words to us and continues to say so after 1989. It was a matter of respecting freedom, understanding what democracy is, honesty and morality in politics.
To była kwestia rozumienia tego, czym jest demokracja.
Throughout his pontificate, he established World Youth Day, which became the largest youth celebration with the participation of subsequent popes. During the first pilgrimage to his homeland in 1979, these significant words were spoken.
Niech stąpi duch Twój.
Let your spirit descend and renew the face of the earth, the face of this land.
Tej ziemi.
Later, he warned Poles against illusory freedom which leads to enslavement.
To jest moja matka ta ziemia. To jest moja matka ta ojczyzna.
This is my mother, this land. This is my mother, this homeland. These are my brothers and sisters. And understand, all of you who approach these matters recklessly, understand that these matters cannot not concern me. They cannot not hurt me.
Nie mogą mnie nie obchodzić. Nie mogą mnie nie boleć.
Even though he devoted his entire life to serving God and above all people, John Paul II became a victim of attacks from politicians and journalists. Last year, TVN broadcast a report in which the Pope was accused of being passive regarding reports of cases of molestation of minors by priests. It caused a lot of controversy. It was based on the materials of the Security Service, which included accusations of unreliable people acting on the orders of the Security Service. Moreover, the events and documents chosen were selective, and the author, Marcin Gutowski, was grossly unreliable.
Te perfidne ataki na Jana Pawła II, które tak naprawdę rozpoczęły się krótko po jego śmierci.
These perfidious attacks on John Paul II, which actually began shortly after his death, have continued with varying intensity over recent years and were perfidious and deceitful. But they showed that certain limits of decency cannot be exceeded.
Z tej strony pokazały w pewnym momencie, że nie można przekraczać pewnych granic przyzwoitości.
It is no coincidence that publications damaging the good name of the Holy Father appeared a few months before the parliamentary elections. And earlier, Sławomir Nitras from the Civic Coalition spoke directly about what should be done with Catholics.
To jest uczciwa kara za to, co się stało.
Catholics need to be filed.
Przywilejów.
In response to baseless attacks against John Paul II last year, a papal march took place on the streets of Warsaw. Over 200,000 Poles took part. John Paul II primarily cared for the weakest, the youngest and the unborn. In his teachings, he emphasized the importance of protecting life from the moment of conception. He spoke and warned against the cult of death.
Nie można stwarzać fikcji wolności.
You cannot create a fiction of freedom that supposedly liberates people. In fact, it enslaves and corrupts them.
A właściwie go zniewala i znieprawia. Jaka wolność?
What freedom? For example, the freedom to take the life of an unborn child?
Życia nienarodzonemu dziecku.
On the 14th of April, the National March of Life will take place in Warsaw under the slogan Long Live Poland.
Za chwilę będziemy mieli tą debatę, która...
Shortly we will have this debate with demands making abortion available on demand. But this is far larger. It concerns the endangered freedom and even independence.
Zagrożonej nawet niepodległości.
No more homework. The new rules apply to primary school pupils in grades 1 to 3. In turn, in older grades, homework is optional, and instead of a grade, the student is given information about what he did well and what needs improvement. According to some experts, the new regulations may lead directly to making society more stupid. After reducing the value-added tax rate for the beauty sector to 8% and increasing tax on food, it is time now for changes in education.
Zlikwidujemy pracę domową.
We will abolish homework in primary schools. In grades 1 to 3, there will be no homework at all. In grades 4 to 8, written homework will be optional and will not be graded by teachers. We are giving children back their free time. According to experts, the 13th December coalition has but one goal. In addition to the momentary political needs of civil platform politicians, we are also dealing with ideological pressure that is supposed to lead to the stupefaction of Polish society, to adapting it to the standards of multiculturalism in which everyone is not particularly familiar and adapts to the directives of the ideologists of the European left. According to a United survey for Dziennik Gazeta Prawna and RMF-FM, over half of Poles are against eliminating homework in schools. Our interviewees have a similar opinion. I have grandchildren of school age and I think this is a very unfavourable decision. Children will have even more time for smartphones and maybe other things, God forbid, drugs. They want to turn Polish children into qualified idiots so that they can manipulate them in their lives one day. There will be more changes in education. A comprehensive curriculum reform is planned for the new school year. Minister of Education Barbara Nowacka predicts major changes in history teaching. Characters such as John Paul II, Inca, Captain Witold Pilecki, and, in general, soldiers of the Independence Underground, the cursed soldiers who fought against the communist system after the end of the Second World War, are to disappear from history textbooks. Such actions by Donald Tusk's government do not surprise law and justice politicians. This is an approach that shows that Poles can be mediocre at best, and that is why they start from the youngest. They start from the children. After all, a stupid society is easier to govern. As the 16th century politician and thinker Jan Zamoyski wrote, the Republic will be like the education of its youth. Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda said the target for NATO member states to spend 2% of their gross domestic product on defence was generally insufficient in the present geopolitical environment. This mirrors the Polish President Andrzej Duda's proposal of raising the mandatory defence spending threshold to 3% of GDP for NATO countries. 2%, even as a minimum limit, is too small and not adequate to the task in the current geopolitical situation, Nausėda said during a joint press conference with Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte in Vilnius. We expect from the candidates to NATO Secretary-General to encourage and to pressure NATO countries which have not yet for the moment reached 2% gross domestic product. We expect from the candidate for NATO Secretary-General to encourage and to pressure the NATO countries which have not for the moment reached the 2% gross domestic product defence spending level to do so as quickly as possible. And, more generally, to realise that 2%, even as a minimum limit, is too small and not an adequate task in the current geopolitical situation.
This year, the Netherlands is providing more than €2 billion in military support to Ukraine. In total, we committed, since February 2022, €6.3 billion in military support. And we have signed a 10-year security agreement committing ourselves to Ukraine's security and freedom for the longer term. And therefore we decided to contribute to the Czech Republic's initiative to deliver artillery shells to the Ukrainian armed forces as soon as possible. With €250 million, we are the second largest contributor after Germany to this initiative. And we are working hard to deliver the F-16s, which are so important to help Ukraine gain air superiority over its territory.
Rutte, a candidate for the position of NATO Secretary-General, reaffirmed his country's support for Ukraine and stated that his country is providing more than €2 billion in military support for Kiev this year. He added, Lithuania shares borders with the EU and NATO, and mentioned that Dutch forces will conduct an exercise with a Patriot Air Defence Unit in Lithuania this summer.
Let me say once again, Lithuania's borders are EU and NATO borders, and that makes them our borders too. So let there be no doubt, in Moscow or anywhere else, we will defend them. In this regard, it's good to mention that the Dutch armed forces are currently making preparations for a Patriot Air Defence Unit to conduct an exercise in Lithuania this summer. The Russian threat from the air continues unabated. So it is essential that we keep NATO's collective deterrence and defence in order, including in the air.